Hey, what is up, y'all? This is Rainbow Fire, the unicorn knows the last unicorn. I want to talk about something real quick about about nostalgic. Yes, what you're looking at is a 1985 camcorder. This is my tapeless setup. The battery is in my pocket. It's a big battery. I hook up with a cigarette lighter adapter. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about something else. Uh, but yeah, like I said, I'm into the tapeless community. The tapeless community, they like recording via, they like to record, uh, take old cameras like this and put tapeless, uh, record tapeless, so you don't have to run VHS tapes. You just run to memory cards. Anyway, but I think the reason I think the reason this is popping so much is because the nostalgic community. I'm noticing people. I'm gonna mention this. People like me, millennials, like because millennials like me, um, we all miss them days when we were young. And honestly, it was a great time. We miss being kids. I've been getting lots of YouTube videos lately about kids, what kids used to do back then. You know what I mean? Kids used to go outside. They would go outside or ride bikes or something. A lot of TikTok creators are talking about nostalgic things and crazy stuff. But um, like I said, nostalgic is a thing that a lot of people are thinking. Crazy stuff. Um, but so most kids nowadays, they don't even go outside and play, I mean, I remember last year, it was summertime, and there wasn't that many kids that were outside. Of course, it was really hot. And you could hear people in the backyards cooking on barbecue grills and and literally um, eating like just um, just having a good old time, like eating outside, spend time with their family, all that. And like I said, the thing is, kids nowadays don't go outside that much. They're always on the VR headset. They're always on video games. They're always on the PS3, Switches, Xbox, whatever. Yeah, we had consoles back then. We had the PlayStation 1, PS2, Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, Atari. We had all that. But at least we went outside and did stuff. And the reason I think the tapeless community that loves VHS tapes, like the tapeless community wants to record on these old big bulky VHS cameras, is because I mean you gotta think that's all we had. That's all our parents had. They had VHS cameras. That's all they had. And now that we have the mini the mini DVR thing I have velcroed on that camcorder, I can record right to memory card. I don't have to worry about. I can still give it that VHS look. A lot of people just use apps. You just say, why just use the apps? Because the real thing looks real better. And this is actually a tube camera. Um, but back to nostalgic. Um, Most people my age that are in their 30s, their 20s, well, I don't know. Well, millennials are different from Gen Zers. Um, Most people my age are already starting families, already having kids and all. And most likely they're just, you know, and honestly, day and age where everything's expensive, prices going up, people just can't afford anything. It's crazy. Now, like I said, I'm really into old vintage tech. My mom used to film all these cameras when I was young, and luckily I found one that works, working condition. Now, I am going to mention this, okay? I'm only going to mention this for a little bit, okay? So there's a lot of conventions that went on in the 80s and the early 90s. And one of those conventions, I'm going to mention this, okay? I just saw a video that popped up on my TikTok feed, and I wanted to say some things a little bit. All right? And like I said, this brings back memories of my parents recording us when we were kids, having a good time and all that. There was a certain community that went to a convent, like one of the conventions that I'm about to mention started in 1980. 1980s was the furry convention. Yes, the furry convention was a thing. It started back in the 1980s. Um, I got recommended a video on that the one day, and it was a dude recording on VHS, like a whole camcorder like this, recording a convention with one of these old cameras. He recorded, not today, back in 1980s. I think it was like 82 or 85, might have been 82. And I was like, man, that's just crazy. I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to bring these cameras into the conventions nowadays. But honestly, they probably wouldn't care. You're just doing it for yourself. It's not like you're filming, like, random people. But bring back to what I'm talking about classic cameras. Nostalgic is a big thing. And now Gen Zers, like Gen Zs, I think, if I'm pronouncing this right, kids that were born in 2012 to, I don't know how it goes. I might have got that wrong. Born in 2012 to I don't know what. They're getting older right now. They're in their 20s almost. They're starting to get jobs. They're starting to graduate, and they're starting to wake up now that everything. They want to go back to see what millennials are like. And yeah, we get a lot of backlash. Gen Zers backlash us all the time for us millennials, saying, yeah, because your times are better. You had more kids, used to go outside more. And yeah, we were right. We used to go outside and do stuff. And all these kids, they don't go outside. They don't do things. It's crazy. This camera was made in 1985, and that was a year when millennials were babies and infants, you know? And this camera still freaking works. Can you believe that? It's like any like electronic nowadays has a lifespan. It doesn't want to work, you know what I mean? It's crazy. But like I said, I don't know what to do, guys. Like I said, my goal is to film with this camera at horse farms and video horses and just film nature or something. I don't really care. But the reason I'm fascinated with nostalgic is because, number one, the back rooms. The back rooms got me hooked on VHS audio horror. And yeah, a lot of backroom stuff will get you hooked on that stuff. It was crazy. You have a lot of people that literally miss them days. Honestly, I'll admit this. I do get sad once in a while sitting, like I was sitting on the swing at the park thinking about the past, you know what I mean? Back when I was a kid, we used to play on the playgrounds and stuff. Now, when I go to the park, usually the park is empty. Like maybe there would be one or two kids, but that's it, you know? Like I said, it's just crazy that kids don't go outside anymore. They don't. It's really sad. The public parks, they're not as active as much as they used to be. And the one thing I'm going to mention this, I have time because I'm on a time limit. The one thing I'm going to mention that, do you guys remember when you guys were kids, when everyone had to go to someone's house to play video games and all? Nowadays, people just go up, they play online to play Fortnite, or they play online to play Battlefield or whatever, you know what I mean, or Call of Duty. Back then, you had to go to someone's house. And the funny thing is, when there was a group of kids, you know, back then they would have bicycles in the yard, and that was the person, that was your friend with the popular video game or something, or the new console for the Sega Genesis or NES, Super Nintendo you will go to. Like I said, this is crazy times. My childhood was the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo Entertainment System, because we used to play on that before we had the PlayStation 1. We did have a Sega Genesis. We didn't have a Super Nintendo. But we did have a Dreamcast. Woof, I love that console. Like I said, kids don't go outside. Now, here's one thing I'm going to mention too. Holidays. Holidays are literally different now from generations. Like I said, a lot of people still film the holidays, but most kids, I'm not saying they're spoiled, but like I said, we were always respectful of what we got, too. And Easter's coming up. If I may ever post this before Easter happens, Easter's coming up. And Easter was a great time. I remember getting up in the morning, my mom and dad would film us coming down the stairs with the little VHS camera. Not this kind of camera, because my mom quit filming with this camera. One of these cameras that we had like this, they quit filming with it. But the one bad thing about VHS cameras, you gotta convert them to digital. And that's the thing that a lot of tapeless communities are doing. They're making these cameras where they're tapeless, so you don't have to convert them to digital. You can just record right to them. But yeah, it is sad to see that kids nowadays, they don't want to go out, they don't want to go outside, it's too hot. And it is sad to see that we grew up at a time where we're always outside doing stuff. Kids go outside, if it's a really nice day, kids will go outside. But I think what happened, the pandemic ruined it for everyone. Yeah, I'm going to blame the pandemic from that. Because, like I said, most kids were homeschooled, most kids were on Zoom. And like I said, a lot of kids that went to elementary school, when the pandemic dropped, they missed half their childhood. And it's sad because you need to be with your friends. School is with being with your friends. Most of all my memories from middle school, high school, elementary, I kind of wish I had smartphones back then, because I will record all of our good memories of us being kids, just goofing off, having fun. But back then we had flip phones. They only had, well, the iPhone came out when I graduated, but they had flip phones with cheap cameras on them. But that's all they had. That's all they had. But like I said, kids don't go out. They don't do it. But yeah, it is crazy that we're growing in a time where kids can record anything and they can record their memories. But like I said, us millennials, we didn't have cameras. Our teachers usually had the cameras to take pictures of us or on field trips, places where we went. Like I said, just be lucky. That's the camera that we owned, that we had back when I was a kid. Something like this. That's all we had. Like I said, this is something I want to talk about, nostalgic. A lot of YouTubers are talking about this kind of stuff, and I want to give my opinion. I'm sorry to bring up the furry fandom in this, because that was because it came out in the 80s when these cameras were made. Look it up. Look up 1985 fur convention. You'll see it. It's pretty cool. Like any convention back in 1980. But that's when it started. Anyway. But this is Rainbow 5, the unicorn. That was the last unicorn. I'm hoping to get this camera working and actually get it running better so I can start making videos. Like I said, I love all you guys. I love all you guys. Peace out, and I hope you guys have a good one. I gotta get going, but if you're a Gen Zer, enjoy while you can. Because like I said, when you grow up, you're going to look back in them days and miss it. But yeah, this is Rainbow 5 the Unicorn. Peace out.